Paul. Hey, first off, man, I want to say I really appreciate you being here. We have tried scheduling a few times, so I'm really grateful that this finally has worked out. I've been wanting to talk to you and have a conversation about a few things around mindfulness. But first, the question I always ask. Oh, what? What's up?
Is this live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's not live. It's just recording.
Okay, cool. All right, good. All right, good.
We're not live anywhere.
All right, cool, bro.
But first, the question I always want to ask, or I ask all my guests now, is in your point in your life right now, where you are, Paul, when you wake up in the morning, what truly makes your heart sing? Like, what is it that makes your heart so happy and fulfilled today?
I do have an amazing morning routine that we can talk about. But what really makes my heart sing every morning is I get up in the morning in the highest frequency and vibration I can, because I know that what's happening is I am given another opportunity to show up in all my brilliance, genius, and greatness, and be able to share that out in the world so that I can inspire people to do that as well. So I have a blank canvas every day, Justin, that I get to paint and become the masterpiece known as me. I'm excited for each new day, man. I get up. To me, life's an either-or principle, bro. Either you're going to do it or you're not. That's about it, right? It's not rocket science. So when I get up in the morning, I don't care what's going on. I go to sleep in a high vibration too, but there is no circumstance that can get in my way except me. And if I learn how to get out of my way, which I have through many, many years of work on myself, I wake up every morning excited, man.
So almost
what can I create today?
Yeah. So you have a clean slate almost every morning. So you let it go at night, and then you wake up with a brand new clean slate each morning.
And by the way, everybody has that. You have that, bro. And by the way, I want to thank you. And I want to, before we start rolling, because you and I are starting to roll, is I want to just acknowledge you, man, for stepping up and doing what you're doing here and interviewing people and bringing mindfulness and bringing great vibration and knowledge out into the world, man. So thank you for doing this. And I'm honored to be on this with you, bro.
Hey, thank you, Paul. That means a lot, man. I appreciate that. I do. You have an interesting story. Well, first off, we definitely have to talk about this. And I told you beforehand that we're gonna dive a little bit into your history first, okay, and how you got to the Paul that you are now, right? Because I think that's really important. That it wasn't always this way, right? So
that would be accurate. That would be accurate, bro.
Yeah, and that's the case for most people, right? We go through these transformations in our life, and you really hit a big one. And we've talked several times about some of it, but not as much as I'd like to. So I'm really glad you're here, and I'm really glad for my audience to hear this. So for people that don't know, Paul, let's go back to like 20-year-old Paul Hoffman. Where did it all start? As far as like, what's your history in like your story, I guess you could say.
Good question. And so I always tell people I'm an open book. So I went to college on a basketball scholarship. So what I guess about 19 years old. I'm really, really good. Really, really good in high school, bro.
I didn't know this. Good. This is awesome.
Yeah, really, really good. So I went to a Division I school, which was the University of Vermont. Now, when I went to the University of Vermont, they were awful in basketball, right? But you know what? I got a scholarship. And today, in today's world, they're actually been in the NCAA AA tournament, for the last probably 4 or 5 years. But anyways, basketball scholarship, 19 years old. Now, I look at experiences and moments in my life, and I call them defining moments. And here's one of the biggest defining moments that happened to me in life. Obviously, right now, what we're doing is a defining moment. So I remember walking on the court, Justin, the first day of practice, and looking around and saying, these guys are good. These guys are good. I got to up level my game because now I'm going from high school to Division I. So it's like life. You want to take something to the next level in your life, you got to do something different, okay? Yeah. And it's got to be something that really breaks you out of your comfort zone or whatever zone you're in so that you go to your next level. So I walked out, I said, these guys are good. And I kind of had this little inkling that was going on in my mind. I call it a mind trap, which was telling me I wasn't good enough. Okay. Now that's happened to me a few times in life, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And so I played for a year. Okay. And then I quit school because I gave up on myself. Now my biggest thing was I wanted to be a pro basketball player. Could I have been? I don't know. Probably not, but it doesn't really matter. That was one of my dreams, if you will, one of my desires. So I end up quitting school after a year. Now my biggest claim to fame, though, when I played college basketball, was I played against Julius Erving, Dr. J.
So what year was this?
Dr. J. Huh? What year was this?
Yeah.
It was 1970.
Okay. Yeah.
Dr. J.
Wow.
Dr. J went to the University of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't like I really played against them. It was like I was in the game with that, and some people used to say to me, so what was it like? It was like, well, here's what it was like. Where did he go? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
you noticed how good he was. You really were aware.
He was awesome. He was awesome, bro.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
And so, it's an interesting thing, Jason, because there's a lot of things about my story that have awakened me to things that I do now in life, which have gotten me to where I am. And that was one of the things I didn't do as much as I should have done. And I don't regret any of this stuff, by the way, is the whole idea of practice. So in order for you to be good at something, you got to practice it, because repetition is what gets you to understand that now that becomes part of your DNA. Now that becomes a habit. Now that becomes a mindset. So I gave up on myself.
So why do you think you didn't practice? Like, why do you think you did? Was there an ego situation? Was there like, I know you said you weren't good enough, but
it was self-sabotage.
Just self-sabotage.
It was, I didn't think, obviously I was good enough. I got a scholarship.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously all that stuff is good. And I talk about this when I train people, is it's like, but the prominent thing in front of me at that particular moment was, Paul, you're not good enough.
Okay.
Right. And that's my little mind thing going on, my mind trap. Right.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, I quit school and this friend of mine was quitting school at the same time.
Yeah.
His name was Neil Ratner. And Neil was getting a job as the road manager. Now, this is crazy, bro. Road manager for a band called Edgar Winter's White Trash. Now, your audience can Google Edgar Winter, and there's probably YouTube videos, but Edgar had the band was these 12 guys who were boyhood friends. 10 of them were boyhood friends from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Port Arthur, Texas. The band was awesome. So Neil says, why don't you come and work with me? I said, well, what would I do? He said, you'll be the roadie. I said, what's a roadie?
Yeah.
He said, you drive around the country, set up equipment. I said, I've never set up an amp in my life. He said, don't worry, we'll have a lot of fun. I said, okay, cool. So anyway, moved to Rhinebeck, New York. 26 of us lived in a farmhouse, right? And I was the roadie for Edgar Winter's White Trash. Now, we opened up for bands like the Allman Brothers. Yes. Alice Cooper, Humble Pie, 10 Years After, all the bands in that particular time, right? And then 6 months into it, so I'm driving around the country in a truck, man, setting up equipment. I'm in the rock and roll world, right? Here I go from a sports guy, so now I'm in the rock and roll world. Okay. So 6 months, Neil gets fired because he's a little irresponsible, and since he's not anymore, and then they gave me the road manager's job, and so I didn't have to drive the truck anymore. I could travel on the planes with the band, right? So I was a road manager for the next 6 months, and then that band broke up. Okay, just couldn't get along with each other, and it's most unfortunate because we were probably perched or positioned, because we were on Columbia Records at that time, positioned to be a really, really, really big band. So that band broke up, and then the lead singer of that band, a guy named Jerry LaCroix, who passed away, I don't know, maybe a year ago, called me up and said, "Hey, man, why don't you manage me? And I'm going to put together, you know how the bands have new incarnations. You know, there's like Pink Floyd, and then there's today's Pink Floyd, whatever. Anyway, so Jerry puts together Jerry LaCroix and White Trash. So most of the guys in the band came with Jerry, and he said, "Why don't you manage me?" I said, "Jerry, I don't know how to manage a band." He said, "Don't worry, I think you can do it." And you know me, Justin, I'm one of those kind of guys. Well, I'm Italian, man. I throw things on the wall. I see what sticks. I go for it. Okay. I'm not concerned, because I believe the only limitations that you believe in are the ones that you make up. Okay. And so, I move to Florida. California. And now I don't know how to manage anybody. So I'm thinking, okay, I need to get somebody to help manage me, because, there's always a solution, right? So my biggest question to myself every time I'm trying to create something is, what do I need to do to make it happen? All right. Now I'm in an action mode, and now my mind is looking for the solution. So we moved to California, and during the time I was on the road with Edgar, I met a guy named Ron Strassner, who managed a band called Rare Earth. And Rare Earth had a big song in the 70s called "I Just Want to Celebrate," right? And so I go to see Ron. I said, "Hey, man, you want to co-manage Jerry with me?" He said, "I'd love to. I love Jerry, but I'm too busy. But go see this company called Reb Foster and Associates." So I go see them, and Reb Foster and Associates managed Three Dog Night, okay, which was a big band in the 70s and 80s. I mean, they probably had, 30 number one hits, right?
Oh, wow.
One is the loneliest number, blah, 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 blah.
That was that.
And the other band they managed was John Kay and Steppenwolf, Born to Be Wild. You know that song, okay?
Oh, of course.
So they decided to co-manage Jerry with me, right? So, okay, so we signed a deal. We do a record. We record the record at Ike and Tina Turner Studio in Inglewood. That was another experience for another time. And we go on the road as the opening act, 45-day city tour for Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath.
Oh, sweet. That must have been an experience of a lifetime.
Well, it was, quite experience. And then, that wasn't the only band we worked with. We did like New Year's Eve show with Rod Stewart and Alice Cooper.
Yeah, that's when Ozzy was in his prime, though, right? Back then?
Oh, yeah. They were the Black Sabbath was huge back then.
Yeah.
Okay. And so anyway, so we're on tour, and we're in Chicago. We finish the show. A few of us go to this club on Rush Street called the Rush Up Club. And to make a long story short, the drummer gets in a bar fight. And falls into a coma and dies.
Ooh.
Drummer for our band. Okay. And that's another story too. Anyway, his name is Bobby Ramirez. May he rest in peace, my brother. So now what am I going to do? I'm figuring, well, the band's going to break up, obviously. And, I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I've been on the road now for, maybe 3 years. So maybe I'll just go back to school, because I've had a big interest in the law. I love law. Okay. And so fast forward, Neil Ratner calls me again, my friend who got me the gig as a roadie, who came from a very rich family, and his father set off in a tour management company. So I'm, 21 now, maybe 22. And he says, what are you doing? I heard about Bobby, blah, blah, because he knew Bobby from Edgar's days. And he said, why don't you, I just signed Emerson, Lake and Palmer, right? To be one of my clients. I need you to fly to Germany to be their tour manager. So now, tour manager is the guy who runs the tour.
It's like school's on hold now, right? We're putting school on hold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. School's back. Yeah, everything's on hold now again.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So I flew to Germany, and I became Emerson, Lake and Palmer's tour manager for 2 years. Okay. I lived in a hotel called Blake's Hotel. It was an amazing, amazing experience, right? Wow. And then along the way, I ended up meeting the Pink Floyd people. And so when I was 24 years old, I was Pink Floyd's tour manager.
Wow.
Right? And I did the Dark Side of the Moon tours. Okay. So I've met all rock royalty, and I'm not dropping names, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, it's just another experience, another defining moment in life. So I was Pink Floyd's tour manager. We did stadium tours. It was crazy. Private jets, the whole 9 yards.
You didn't party at all during that time?
Not as much as I did after. And we'll get into that later, because I was responsible for like a 50-man road crew. I was responsible for a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about there, but we definitely won't. What I'm curious that I know Pink Floyd obviously, but that was one of their biggest albums ever, right? Dark Side of the Moon? Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
That was you were at that time. Okay, cool. I just wanted to sweet.
Yeah. And then after 2 years with them, I was done now. Now I've been on the road almost 7 years. So I decided I'm going to go back to school. Jerry calls me again. Jerry LaCroix calls me again. He says, Paul, there's this band called Blood, Sweat, and Tears, okay? And they were looking for a lead singer. Can you negotiate the deal for me? So I negotiated a deal for him to become the lead singer. And then I ended up going on the road kind of as an advisor, if you will, for them to doing a Far East and a European tour. And then I was done. After that, I was done. I just said, I'm done. Can't do it anymore. And I went back to school. And I was going to NYU. And I always talk about circles of brilliance, which is all about your environment and who you hang out with. Like, you're one of the people I like to hang out with because you're in a high vibration, right? And also, where you are in your environment, what you eat, what you watch, what you read, what you allow to, get into you. And so since I wanted to be a lawyer, I would study in the law library because I wanted to feel what that felt like, and immerse myself in that frequency. So I'm going to NYU, and my brother was a recording engineer at a jingle company in New York. Jingles being music for advertising. Oh yeah. Right? So he calls me up one day. He says, I'm living on 79th Street, First Avenue. I've got money because I've made it, on the road. He says, you should come in and talk to these people. They're looking for a second sales rep to go around to advertising, the biggest advertising agencies in the world, to try to get work. I said, man, what's a sales rep? He said, you take our CD around and you play it for either creative director, art director, producer, copywriter, and you see if they'll give us a shot to write their piece of music. I said, man, all right. So I went and go talk to these people. I was going to school 2 days a week. I ended up taking the gig with them for 3 days a week, right? Okay. And so I was their second sales rep, and my agencies were like J. Walter Thompson, BBD&O, Ogilvy and Mather. They're still around, some of these big agencies, but they've now kind of merged with others. And I ended up, I had a system, bro. I'm very cool with systems. I love systems because I think systems are important for success. Okay. So my system was I'd make 100 phone calls a day. Okay. Did I like making 100 phone calls a day? Absolutely not. Right. But I had a system. So, and I had a target. And, I tell people that instead of thinking of things as goals, Justin, think of things as a chief aim. And what I mean by that is when you have a chief aim, you have a target. Okay. It's like an archer. Archer never hits the bullseye at first unless he's an expert. But somebody who's taking up archery, either misses the target first, a few more times, they're supposed to hit the practice and repetition. Then they hit the outer ring, inner ring, and boom, sooner or later hit the bullseye. And so my chief aim was I had probably 15 strategic people that I knew controlled certain accounts. So I'd make 100 phone calls a day, and those would be part of my people. But I would call some of them on a Monday. Then I'd call some of them on a Wednesday. These are my strategic people. And some on a Friday. Yeah. The following week, I'd call them on a Tuesday and maybe on a Thursday, right? Because, you're really getting voicemails. Anyway, make a long story short, I ended up getting these guys a lot of business, right? And I was the first point when I was the first person they'd see at an agency. So I sit in an agency, I play them some music. They say, that's really, really good. They hand me a script and they'd say, what do you think? And I'd sing them something. Just off the top of my head.
Right off there. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And I'm not a musician. I'm not playing yet. Okay. Yeah. And so then they go, oh, that's pretty good. Can we do that? And I'd say, absolutely. I'd go back to the studio. I'd get a keyboard player. I'd say, here's what I sang to him. He'd pick it out. I'd have the client come over. We'd present. And, 75% of the time we'd get the gig. Cool. So after about, 3 months of being their second sales rep, they made me their executive producer. Okay. And then a year or so after that, my brother and I got them the Burger King accounts, the Polaroid accounts, and a few other big accounts, right? And
they would just make jingles for them. Is that what they did?
That's what we did. It was called the music. They're called music houses, right?
Okay.
And so, and there's tons of them. And so, and back then it was like a really cool business to be in.
Yeah.
And so about a year after that, my brother and I decided to leave that company, started our own company. We called it the Hoffman Sound. That's my last name is Hoffman.
Right.
And all the big clients that I had got during my days as their second sales rep and producing came with my brother and I. So when we started with huge pieces of business.
Wow.
And we were like one of the top guys around. And then Harvey, his name is Harvey and I had a little falling out, my brother and I. And in 1980, I started my own company called Paul Hoffman Music. Right? And in 1980, I wrote, "Have you driven a Ford lately?"
Who doesn't remember that?
Okay. And so what happened was when I left my brother and I realized that I needed to kind of teach myself to play a little bit. And I've always been musical, if you will.
Yeah.
My brother and I and our friend Tony Geritano, when we were kids in high school, used to have a little 3-piece Beatles group. Used to sing Beatles songs, lip sync them. It was hilarious, right?
You guys had a little boy band. That's cute.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, that put me on the map. I was interviewed by all the major networks and blah blah. And then now I'm going. Go ahead.
Can I stop you for just a second? Because that can. Have you driven a Ford lately? This is just more of a curious question. I think that if people are listening, like, how the heck was it? Just like you literally were like, oh, here, Ford is a client. They're looking for something. I'll put this together. You email it to them, or there wasn't email back then, right? No. But you showed it to them, and they were like, oh, sounds good, and they write you a check. Is that how that works?
Not all the time. So the way the thing worked with Ford, so basically the agency writes the copy, okay. Right? So J. Walter Thompson was the agency. They wrote the line, "Have you driven a Ford lately?"
Okay.
And then we put it to music, and then we present it, along with a lot of other people, because when big accounts are looking for a campaign, if you will. They'll call probably 5 to 10 music companies to present an idea.
And you guys won.
So that was that. But the interesting thing about what led into Have You Driven a Ford Lately was there was a bridge campaign called "Look Out World, Here Comes Ford," right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of my biggest joys in the jingle world, and I've met a lot of people, bro, a lot of stars have sang my stuff and so forth, because the agencies will hire stars to sing your stuff. Was I worked with Tony Bennett.
Cool.
Tony Bennett sang "Look Out World, Here Comes Ford," right? And later on, when I was doing my Paul Hoffman music stuff, B.B. King, which I'm sure people have heard, know who B.B. King is, I wrote a Burger King commercial for him. BB and BK, it was called. Okay? And so now I'm in the jingle business, man. So I'm making a ton of money. And now I move into this next phase of my life, which is my drug addiction life. So I started to snort cocaine, right? And I liked it. And then what happened was I had a $2,500 a week cocaine habit. And along the way, I drank a lot of vodka during that time. And what happens is when you snort a lot of cocaine, it's like you got to balance it all out, man. I'm recording, big sessions. I'm getting paid $50,000 a day. I got to keep it together.
Crazy.
But I'm into my drugs, bro. So I had a $2,500 a week cocaine habit, probably for a good 10 years, maybe. And then what happened is on November 14th, 1988, I had I call it a psychotic reaction. And I woke up that morning. Now, my phone stopped ringing, Justin, about, I don't know, maybe almost 8 months before that. I just got married in that year, February of 1988. This is now November. But my phone stopped ringing because I was impossible to be around because of the drugs. Okay. And I would tell clients to go F themselves. I would do all this crazy stuff, man. And the jingle business is a very tight, cliquish business. So kind of like internet marketing. You burn people once, And then maybe they'll forgive you. You burn them twice, then that's it. Then they don't give you 3 times.
You're almost blackballed from the industry, right?
Right. And so the word around the street was, don't work with Paul Hoffman. So I woke up, so phone stops ringing. I woke up that day like any other day. And my mother and my mother-in-law was in town. I lived in the West Village. And it was cold and raining that day, bro. And so I did what I did every day. Got up, went to the dealer, went to the liquor store, came back to the apartment, sat on the couch, snorted, and drank. That was it. That was my day. And I had blackouts, right? And so, and I was approaching. There's this. When you're addicted to alcohol and drugs, there's this thing called delirium tremors, and you're basically, your body is just poisoned by it all.
Right.
And so I'm sitting in my living room on that day, and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm waiting for my mother-in-law and my wife to come back in. And now, my wife is in denial because she's saying, "Are you drinking? Are you? No, I'm not doing anything. Whatever." I mean, come on. And so I woke up from a blackout, and across the room, sitting at my dining room table, was a man with no legs. Yeah, that's exactly right. See that look that you gave me? With a man with no legs. But this is an hallucination. Okay.
Okay.
But he's as clear as you, bro.
No,
I'm talking to him. So I'm talking to him, and having a conversation. I don't know what we're talking about, but anyway, I look at my watch. It's 4:00, and they're coming back at 5. And I say to him, "Hey man, I got to get you out of here." He said, "Hey, I have no legs. How am I going to get out of here?" I said, "Oh, that's a good point." So I looked around the apartment, and my bike was in the hallway. So I said, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to a hardware store, and I'm going to buy these chains and fasteners and pedals and a seat and build this contraption. I know what it looks like. I'm going to put it on my bike. I'm going to give you my bike and get you out of here. What do you think?" He said, "It's a great idea."
Oh my!
So I bolted out of the apartment, ran 16 blocks, I think it was, in the pouring rain, shorts and a t-shirt. It's probably about 30 degrees, 32 degrees, and found a hardware store, right? And I don't know how I found it. I haven't figured that one out yet because there was no Google back then, by the way. So I go in, I buy $500, about $500 worth of chains and fasteners, come home, lay it all out. Again, I'm pretty organized, nuts, screws, eye bars, pedals, all the stuff. And then I didn't have anything to build it. I had no tools. I didn't know where the tools were. So I just took the apartment apart. I turned all the drawers on the floor, turned everything out of the closets. I mean, it looked like the place was hit by a cyclone. But I found the screwdriver. I sat down and I started to build this thing. And my wife and mother-in-law walked in and said, "What are you doing?" I said, I got to get this guy out of here. They said, "What guy?" I said, "This guy. You see him? Don't you see him?" Of course, they didn't see him. And they called a friend of mine. His name is Marion Cowings. He came over, took me to St. Vincent's Hospital, which was 7 blocks up the street, under the guise that the emergency room was going to come and get the guy out of the apartment. Really, what was going to happen is, I needed to get committed at that point because I was like blowing a gasket. I was out of it. Wow. I'm in the emergency room for about 3 hours. They keep saying to me, we got to admit you. Nothing's wrong with me. We got to get the guy out of the apartment, right? Finally, after about 3 hours, as I say, they took my blood pressure. They said, "Can we take your blood pressure, please?" I said, "Absolutely." It was probably something like, 200 over whatever. My head was probably about ready to explode. They were worried that I was going to have a heart attack or seizures, right? Yeah. And they put me in a straitjacket, strapped me to a gurney. You ever see?
You remember this? You vividly remember this going on?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Put me in a straitjacket, strapped me to a gurney, and took me to the 14th floor psych ward. And that was it, man. And then they shot me up with. Yeah, it was pretty scary. But did you? Did you ever see one? Did you? What am I going to do? Did you ever see One Flew Over? Did you ever see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Yeah. Anyway, so what happens? You get up. I remember though, waking up the next morning, bro. I mean, I was drugged out. They shot me with Thorazine and all the stuff to kind of try to make sure that I don't have a seizure or anything.
Uh-huh.
But I remember waking up the next morning, looking at the ceiling and going, "Thank you, God." I don't have to do this anymore.
Oh, really?
I remember that vividly. And then for the next 2 weeks, I got up, came out of my room, got in line, did the Thorazine shuffle, went to the meds window, got my little white cup with my pills, took them, shuffled back to my room. And so I was detoxing, right? And then after 14 days, and it's right around this time now, right?
Did you go through the full detox where you were shaking, sweats, all that whole 9 yards?
The whole 9 yards. The whole 9 yards. That's the DTs, but right, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
So after 2 weeks, I went up to a rehab. So it would be now, it'll be Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving Day in 1988. Okay, so it's coming up, right?
Cool.
And I went to a detox. I'm in a rehab up in the Catskills for 30 days, and I was done, bro. They say you got to hit your bottom, right? And that was my bottom. Yeah. Now, I had, during the course of this whole, drug thing, I had been through rehabs and whatever. So we don't even need to get into that now. It's another story. So I got myself healthy. I got out of the rehab, moved back to the city, and then for the next year, I didn't work. I just went to meetings. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to Narcotics Anonymous. So I went to any anonymous that I could deal with. I knew that I needed to shift, man. I needed to shift my consciousness here. Why was I doing what I thought was fun, but it was really sabotaging behavior.
Right. And that was over 10 years of it. Yeah.
And I'm making millions of dollars. Yeah. People are talking about me wanting to be like me. And at the end of the day, in the darkest of nights, when I'm all alone and I'm in my own thoughts, I'm going, nobody wants to be like me.
Wow.
And so I got clean, I got straight. And then I, a year after, it was in December of 1989. Now, a year later, moved to California, right? Because my wife's parents lived here. And I got out here and I'm going, what am I going to do? And I'm thinking, I don't know, but then all of a sudden it's like, well, here's what I know I can do is I'm in the jingle business. I know how to do that. So I started a company out in California. And then that year I went to visit a buddy of mine who was in Detroit. He worked at an agency called Leo Burnett. He was actually an art director on Ford. So I've known him from there. And he was the creative director on the Oldsmobile account. They don't make Oldsmobiles anymore. And I said to his name is Bill Moore, and I said, Bill, man, here's what's going on, blah, blah. He couldn't, but I said, man, well, I was wondering what happened to you. And then, make a long story short, that year I did 350 Oldsmobile commercials. Put me back on the map. And they were, it was quite a lot of money, and put me back on the map. But I would tell you, my whole thing shifted, Justin. And although I was in the jingle business and so forth, I didn't, in the back of my mind, it was like, I want to do something else. I really want to do something else because the jingle business is changing and more competition. People wanted stuff from no money, blah, blah. Though, the story. And so, and I guess it was, 2004, maybe 2005, maybe 6 or 7. Anyway, I met a guy named Harv Eker, T. Harv Eker. I don't know if you know who he is.
No,
Harv Eker. He had a company called Peak Potential. And,
sounds interesting.
He's in there, like, the Tony Robbins, those kind of guys, right?
Love it.
And I went to see him. He invited me to come to his event. I met him at my spiritual center. His event was called the Millionaire Mind Intensive. So I went to see him and went to the event, 3-day event. And he said, what do you think after the event? I said, Harvey, you're a great teacher. Great teacher, bro. Your music sucks. He said, what do you mean my music sucks? I said, well, you try to play every cliched money song out there. And when you play Pink Floyd's Money, I brought Pink Floyd into the story. I said, who do you think people think of? You or Pink Floyd? Because, it's an anchor, okay? Music's universal language. It's an anchor. It triggers a response. Mm-hmm. It brings you back to a pattern and so forth, right? Yeah. So he said, well, what do I do? I said, I'll write you a song. So I wrote him a song called I've Got a Millionaire Mind, right? For his Millionaire Mind Intensive course. Yeah. Right? And I played it for him. I actually sang it live. And he comes up to me and says, man, you got to write songs for all my courses. So I created a company called Success Songs, which I still have, right? You can go to the www.successsongs, SUCCESSSONGS.com, and actually download a free song, right? And you will have to give me your name and email, though. And
yeah, of course.
But I created this company called Success Songs, and then all of a sudden, all these people in the personal development world started to ask me to write songs for them. Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Victor Hansen, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Robert Allen, Alex Mandozian, Brendan Burchard.
Brendan Burchard, huh?
Okay, and the list goes on. Wow. So I've got this. I had this company called Success Songs, and now I'm writing these songs for all these people, and I'm still going, man. I want to teach. I want to train people. I want to share my experience of what it took for me to get out of my own way to create this thing. So I called Harv up. I said, Harv, I want to start speaking. He said, what are you going to speak on? I said, I want to speak on rituals, habits, and mindset. I said, because here's what I know, Harv. I know that your thoughts create your beliefs. Your beliefs create your choices. And then your choices create your actions. So your thoughts, beliefs, choices, and actions drive your behavior. But your rituals, habits, and mindset change your behavior. And so he said, okay. So I started to speak on Harv stages. And then I got into this whole thing that I do now, man, which is my whole sculpting your life platform. So, and the metaphor for sculpting your life is when Michelangelo, and I'm sure everybody knows who Michelangelo is, looked at this block of granite, which was very flawed, okay, kind of like human beings are. And, he looked at this block of granite, but he saw David. And all he did was take everything that was in the way, out of the way. And there's this magnificent statue. If anybody's ever stood in front of it, it's awesome. Go look at a picture called David, right? So I teach people, once they get out of their own way, they get to sculpt the masterpiece known as you. Now, that was a long dissertation, bro, to get to where we are now in this conversation. Mm-hmm. But that's my history.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. That was amazing.
And it's just a history, but I'm not my history, and nobody is. I tell people, you're not your history or your herstory.
Herstory?
H-E-R-S-T-O-R. Yeah, history would be the man, H-I-S-T-O-R-Y,
yeah.
Or herstory, H-E-R. Okay?
Yeah, I liked what you said about sculpting. That's why I picked up my phone. It was really serendipitous that you said that, because I can't remember the exact quote, but this just kind of goes along with it, I think. I read today, this morning after my meditation, and it said to be authentic is to literally be your own author.
Yeah.
Right. So So and that's the same idea of you saying, similar along sculpting your own life. And I loved that metaphor you used and how you brought David into that. What are some rituals that you're talking about to change your thoughts, which then I'm going to recap that. So, your thoughts create your beliefs, your beliefs create your decisions, and your decisions create your actions. Yep. So if you change your habits and change your mindset, your thoughts are going to change, right? And that's the beginning of going to your actions.
Absolutely. So yeah. So I mean, it's all intertwined with each other. But just to piggyback on what you just said a minute ago, and then I'll tell you what my thoughts are around this whole ritual thing. Is you said to be your own author. I tell people to be the star of their own story. But here's the thing, and I didn't come up with this. I always tell people you might as well be you, because everybody else is taken.
Yeah, I love that. Okay.
One.
Yeah.
And I don't know who Oscar Wilde might have said. Somebody said that. You can Google it. Anyway, so here's the thing about rituals, bro. So I get up probably for the last, 25 years, 20 years maybe. Yep. I can't even remember. I have a morning ritual I do every day. So I believe that you have the ability to direct your mind in the direction you want to go. So, so my morning ritual is somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes a day, which means for the first 60 or 90 minutes of my day, Justin, I do nothing but tune in to me. Okay. I don't look at my phone. I don't even have it around me because I'm talking to you. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be distracted. Because distractions and diversions are one of the mind traps I talk about a lot of times. But so first thing I do in the morning, real quickly, I look at the ceiling and go, thank you, God, another opportunity to go out and create a great day, to show up in all my brilliance, and to be able to share that and empower people to do the same. Thank you. Next thing I do is a gratitude exercise. I find 3 people, they just come through, bro. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Grateful, grateful, grateful. Then I have this beautiful glass of water right next to my bed. I get up, I drink it, because you got to hydrate, because you dehydrate during the night.
Sure.
And then I put my feet on the floor. I go into my space and I listen to my 15-minute Good Morning, Great Day sculptation, which is one of my products. It's an audio product, right? And most people might call it meditation, but I call it tuning in, okay? So tuning in, what's meditation? It's tuning in.
Tuning in.
But I'm always about creating this new language or this new thing. Now, Paul's this kind of guy, when people are going right, I'm going left, bro. You know, that's just who I am. Okay?
I have that written down here.
Yeah, that's just who I am, right? And so, and I'm not saying that's good, bad, or indifferent. It's just who I am. So for me, see, meditations or any kind of practice that gets you to tune in is awesome because, see, your mind's not designed to be quiet. Your mind is not designed to be quiet.
No.
Okay, and you've heard many stories about people in meditation, or how do I quiet my mind, blah, blah, blah. It's not designed to be quiet. You just need to go with it. Right. Just tune in, have a very much of an intention to what you want to tune into, and your mind will go there. So when I tune in, do my morning, tuning in, Good Morning, Great Day, which is me talking to myself. I do the visualization process in it, which is called mind sculpting. I talk myself into success. I talk myself to get out of my own way. It's a very specific process. The tuning in process is about observing. If you ever read the book, The Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle, he talks about the witness, about you being able, once you can witness your behavior, you can change it. If you can't witness it, you can't change it. Okay?
Right.
And so it's all about observing your behavior, identifying what's holding you back, or in your best interest, okay? Reframing that behavior, okay? Pivoting, so you pivot away from the negative behavior into the positive frequency, okay? Anchor that behavior, okay, by just doing something that gets you to do even if it's uncomfortable, all right? Activating and integrating. That's the whole tuning in process. And so after I do that, I read 4 books. This is one of them. Think and Grow Rich, 365 Days, okay? Next one is Graced by Max Lucado, okay? Next one is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yeah. And the last one is by Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
And the last one is The Art of Living by this guy named Epictetus, who was a philosopher around Aristotle's time.
Those are like the original OG covers. Like my covers don't look like that in a couple of those books I have.
Yeah, these books, and you know, this is 365 days of Think and Grow Rich. Yeah. Right. This is 365 days of highly effective people.
And a lot of that has to do with manifestation and manifesting and believing it, and walking, thinking. Yeah, it's all mindset. All the mind.
I read those 4 books.
Yeah.
And now that's kind of anchored after my tuning in process, if you will. Okay. And then after I finish that, I sit down and I write Good Morning, Great Day. So I write this thing every morning called Good Morning, Great Day. Now I've missed a few days. It depends, you know, I mean, I need to get a little bit more. I mean, I've been probably doing it for about 5 years. So I've probably got, I don't know, 1,600 of them, right? Dude. All different thoughts. I'm going to actually put them in my own 365-day book.
Yeah.
And, but it's a stream of consciousness, right? And so I wrote it right before we got on the call. And it's called playing in your higher vibration.
Okay.
And I talk about how to play in your high vibration. Okay. And again, it's all around the whole concept of, your mindset, your habits, your rituals, your thinking, there's, and, the either or thing, there's a way to think that's in your best interest, bro. And there's a way to think that sabotages you. And you've got to learn that if you're going to keep thinking in the sabotaging thing, then you're going to get the same results that show up in your life all the time. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen is you're going to keep questioning yourself. Why doesn't my life change? Well, your life will never change unless you change.
Why do you think people get stuck in those bad mindset habits? Why do you think that happens? What is it about our life? What is it about us that happens? Fear
of change. Okay. Comfortable in your comfort zone, which is, I call your comfort zone a no zone, because you're not going anywhere. Okay. It's like when you were a kid. Remember you were on a seesaw as a kid? You ever do the seesaw?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the most fun when you went, like when you balanced each other, right?
Yeah, we always try to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Where were you going when you did that?
Nowhere.
There's where you were going, man, up and down. So anyway, it's a metaphor for life I use.
Yeah.
So it's fear. Okay. It's a mind trap of I'm not enough. It's that whole I should have, could have, would have. It's like I don't know the right. A lot of times people don't do things because they tell themselves, oh, I don't know the right people. I don't have enough money. Whatever it is, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever excuse they give themselves. See, there's always two forms to an excuse. There's the excuse,
yeah,
and then there's the excuse you make for the excuse. Okay.
Excuse you make for the excuse.
Well, so when you make an excuse, somebody goes, how many times have you made an excuse and somebody says, well, why did you do that? And then you're making another freaking excuse.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. Okay. And so
it's true. You're right. I mean, the thing is, it's not rocket science. It's just being aware of this stuff.
What are we talking about? Mindfulness.
Yeah, exactly. Being mindful of it. Yes. Correct.
Okay. So listen, when you can observe your behavior, you can change it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep beating yourself up and going, oh, my life doesn't, your life doesn't change because you're not doing anything different. You're so caught up in this whatever over here, this sabotaging stuff, which keeps you in your comfort zone, the storms of mediocrity, giving up on yourself, I'm not enough, all that crap that you heap on yourself, which is not who you are, because who you are is a genius, brilliant gift of light, okay, that you have your own gift. There's nobody like you, Justin. There's nobody like me, and there's nobody like the other 7 or 8 billion people whatever on the planet. We're all unique individuals. There's no 2 raindrops that are the same. There's no 2 snowflakes that are the same. There's no 2 rose petals that are the same. So stay in your freaking lane and live your life. Now, it's going to take you some effort to chip away all that crap you've heaped on yourself. And once you do, guess what? The masterpiece shows up. And now you live your life the way you want to. Most people come up with an idea in life, bro. Let's say, okay, here's the idea. Part A, I want to create a business. Part C is the outcome. The business is going to do blah, blah, whatever, right?
Yep.
The middle part, B. There's A, C. B is the most important part of any idea and anything you do in your life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your business, whether it's a personal discovery, whether it's your exercise, whatever it is. Part B is the most important part, because you know what most people say in part B after they come up with an idea? Oh, I don't know how to do that. And they never do it. Oh, I don't know the right people, blah, blah. Here's what I tell you to do. You got an idea? You know what your outcome? Here's what you should ask yourself. What do I need to do to make it happen?
What do I need to do to make it happen?
To make it happen.
That's great.
And then all of a sudden what happens is your mind now, because remember now, your mind is always going to search for what you directed to search for. I mean, read it. So, scientific, right?
Yeah.
Most people give up when they try something between 3 and 5 times if they don't get the expected results that they want. And I'll be the example, because I am my laboratory. I am my own personal experiment.
Yeah.
I experiment on myself all the time. Okay.
Okay.
When it comes to rituals, habits, and mindset. And so here's the thing. I wanted to, I play a little keyboard. I play enough to be dangerous. I'm not a great musician, but I'm really good at creating and composing. Okay. As you can see, I mean, I've written many songs and
you've
been
done
very
it for a long
successful.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I've had 3 million people, more than 3 million people download my brain technology. Okay. But the thing about, so I wanted to learn to play guitar. I own 4 or 5 guitars, bro. I pick them up every now and then, but if I pick them up more, guess what? I could play guitar. Practice, bro. Practice.
Goes on to practice.
Boom. So when I picked the guitar up, here's what I said to myself. Oh man, I'm gonna, I can't wait to play like Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton. And Eric Clapton playing freaking guitar for 50 fucking years, man. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'm gonna pick the guitar up. Because I know music. I'm gonna pick the guitar up and I'm gonna play in a week.
Like Eric Clapton.
But first of all, you got to learn all the notes on the neck.
Right.
You got to learn the chord structures. Who am I kidding? So I gave up. I said, fuck Eric Clapton. And I just kind of strum and play a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, that's how life is, man.
Yeah.
That's how people are.
Can I say something with that, Paul?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think with a lot of social media today, somebody will look at, and I've been guilty of this in the past, right? I'll look at somebody that is on stage, speaking in front of thousands, sharing their message and saying, man, I'd love to be doing, I wish I could do that. And then you start getting in this rabbit hole of feeling almost not, depression of feeling. You start feeling envious, jealous, these emotions that we don't want to invade us often. Right. And then you have to realize, just like you said with the Eric Clapton reference, are you doing the right things, the right pieces to put you in a position down the road to even be that person on stage speaking in front of thousands? If you're not even doing that, then how do you have those jealous or envious emotions and let them come in? Because you're never going to be that anyway if you're not putting those pieces in. And maybe that's not who you're supposed to be anyway. So it's just a weird mind screw that, again, it comes in your mind and messes with us. I think one of the things that helps us bring our mindset into a more positive, more winning, more manifestation point is something that I saw in one of your videos. You talked about, this is a little while ago, you talked about celebrating your wins. And I don't think we do that enough, because I think we constantly, if something happens and then we move forward to the next thing, we think about the next thing, what do we got to do? So can you talk a little bit more about the importance of celebrating your wins? I thought that was really powerful.
Absolutely, bro. Good question. Thank you. One of the key cornerstones of being successful is what you just said, Jason. It's about celebrating your success. Because, see, celebration, I tell people sometimes, stand up and give yourself a standing ovation, right? Yeah, exactly, bro. and because, see, once you celebrate success, see, everything that you've ever done in your life is recorded in your subconscious mind. You and I are in our conscious mind right now, okay? It's about this much of who we are. Our subconscious mind is everything. That's miles and miles of stuff, right? And so when I talk to people and say, hey, when they say, well, I really can't do that, I said, well, have you ever been successful? Well, yeah, I've been successful. I said, good. Then just recall that memory. Recall what that felt like and celebrate it. So when I tell people at night, I tell people to do this one process at night. It's called the highlight and insights. Okay. It's about 10 minutes. If you could do it in 5, but do it. Okay. Most people review their day. Would you agree? They review their day.
They're like, oh, today this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened.
Or whatever. Yeah. And
when
most people review their day, you know what they focus in on? What they didn't do.
What they didn't do. Right.
What they didn't do. Now, what's that? That's a negative vibration. Oh, I didn't do this. Oh, shit, I didn't do that. Never focused on what I did do. So I tell people, focus in on your highlights. So a highlight is something you've done well. I don't care if you've just done one. Focus on a highlight. I did this. Celebrate it. Good job, Paul. Awesome. Feel what that feels like. Okay? Get it to be in your DNA, into every cell and fiber of your body. Because every thought that you ever have is in every cell and fiber of your body, man. Just read The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, okay? Highlight. Celebrate it. Insight. You want to turn into a highlight. So an insight is like, man, if I, and look at an insight as like going, here's an insight. And then you ask yourself, and now if I just did this a little bit different, I could make that into a highlight. And now you've now put your head on a pillow at night in an unbelievably higher vibration, because you now have celebrated what you've done in the day.
I love
and
that.
Now you go to sleep, and your mind's not going, because your mind works 24/7, as you well know. I don't know how many times people wake up in the middle of the night. I know I do sometimes, going, shit, I wish it. But give yourself, clear it, man. Clear the what I call the insidious nonsense. Tap into the positive things that you did. Be mindful of where you are in your life. What's necessary? What's the desired next steps? Why do you want them? Don't worry about how they're going to happen, because once you tell the universe, or let the universe know you're available, the universe will give you what you need.
I call that being in flow, right? So you're that's exactly what we're talking about. You're just being in flow with the universe. You're not grinding. You're not
forcing life.
You're not forcing life, because when you do that, you hit so many walls and struggles and problems, and you wonder why, right? So when you're in flow, like you're talking about, which is a very hard, it takes a lot of work to get to that place. Like, let's be honest, right? And you worked very hard at that.
And Justin, it takes just as much work to not be in that place.
I love, brilliantly said.
I'm telling you, bro, it takes just as much freaking work to be in your own freaking way to get out of your own way. Come on, man.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Just take all that energy. I know you are. I know you are. I mean, for your audience, I know you. Just understand that all the effort you put into staying where you are. What if you took that effort to change where you are?
Yeah, it's good.
And man, I'm telling you, man, a plethora of awe and wonder is going to open. I love that word, plethora. A plethora of awe and wonder opens up, bro.
That's great.
And where does it start? It starts with you.
Yep.
Everything that emanates in your life. You know what, man? I love talking to you. Okay, I really do, bro. But there ain't nothing out here that's going to make me happy unless I'm happy in here. I can't love anything out here unless I have self-love. Okay, so life's an inside job, man. Your inner reality always creates you out of circumstance. You know this because you practice it.
Yeah. And
you practice it, bro.
Daily. It's a daily, like you talked about. We've talked, how many times has that come up? Practice, and and it just makes total sense. I wanted people to realize how non-complicated it has to be. So I want you to, if you could share with us, Paul, take a look at your last 3 or 4 days. And you were talking about your nighttime, looking at some of your wins, right? Or what are some small, simple things that you thought about and executed on at night that you talked about?
So last 3 or 4 days. Okay. Yeah. Last 3 or 4 days have been interesting. So here's so from a standpoint of I'll take health. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I got an amazing, my green juice, bro. Okay. Drink 4 of these a day.
You know what? I'm going to stop you. What's in that?
In today's green juice?
Yeah.
Today's green juice has romaine lettuce, purple kale, green kale, spinach, cucumber, celery, green apple, radish, ginger, and red chard, and then the secret ingredient, bro, jalapeno pepper.
Wow.
So I make this every day. I'm going into the juice business. So I have a company called It's All Good.
Yeah.
It's All Good Nutrition. And the And I'm going into bar business, the green juice business, and the smoothie powder business.
Yeah, I remember talking to you a little bit about that. I had one of your balls that was delicious, by the way. If I didn't, so
yeah.
I'll definitely be
and
a
so
buyer.
Here, that's being refined. And so so for the last 3 or 4 days, I've been focusing in on another thing I did really important about, and this leads into my answer, is I would encourage all your listeners, and I know you probably do this, I'm sure, to spend at the minimum of 30 minutes a day in critical thinking. Or I spend an hour a day thinking. What does that mean? That means I either sit on my deck outside, go to the beach, sit in my studio, sit here, whatever, and just think.
Do you journal it?
Yeah, right. I mean, I got more journals than I know what to do with, bro. Okay, that's another thing. Everybody should have an idea journal. And I sit and I think. There's a great book called Deep Work, DEEP Work, by Cal Newport. I think it's Cal Newport. I have it somewhere. I don't want to. Anyway, but critical thinking is important, because what happens when you give yourself the opportunity to just tune out all the distractions, because there's so many freaking distractions, bro.
Yeah.
And tune in. Then what happens is critical thinking allows you to create great ideas. Now, I think of a lot of crazy stuff, bro. Okay. But I write everything down because I never censor myself. I have an idea journal. I write all my stuff down, and then I'll read it and I'll go, that's a good idea. What were you thinking about that one? Mm-hmm. Or whatever. Right.
Totally.
And so for the last 3 or 4 days, what my focus has been on, the end of the year's coming up. And so I'm creating some challenges on health, on mindset, habits, and rituals that I want to invite people to join, so that they end the year in their high vibration, right? And let go and release all that stuff, right? So that they start the year powerfully. So I'm working on some different programs around that. I'm creating a quiz for my platform. I'm about ready to beginning of January to launch the Sculpting Your Life platform. I've been rebranding for almost a year and a half.
Cool.
So those are the things. And so when I go to sleep at night, I look at what I've done. What have I done today from a highlight and insight standpoint? Okay, that was good, Paul. And by the way, I talk to myself when I do this, because I might as well talk to myself, because nobody else is listening at that point, right? So it's like, I talk to myself and go, that was good, Paul. That was really good. And I'm really able to dissect it. It's just, I mean, again, practice, man. I'm very good at being able to recognize my mind traps. I've identified 10 mind traps that all people have, okay? And that's about what my quiz is about. A mind trap could be a limiting belief. I call it a mind trap, okay? And how you can learn how to release all these mind traps, so that what happens is, again, you get the sculpted masterpiece known as you. It always leads back to you. It always leads back to who you are. It always leads back to the masterpiece. So I'm able to really look at my wins from the day. I'm actually able to look at my behaviors. I do this. This is an important part too. My behavior as I relate to other people. How are my communication skills? What's my listening skills? And all this stuff, man. And I actually make myself aware of what shifts I need to do, so that I can get better and better and better at what I do. Okay. Now do I get hit with a lot of roadblocks and a lot of challenges? Absolutely.
Of course.
But a roadblock and a challenge is just an opportunity. And so I've learned, and by the way, I don't want anybody to think my life is utopic, by the way, mostly it is. But do I sometimes give up? Absolutely. But I'm really quick at recognizing where I do that. So I shift back in. And and again, it's all about checking in, man. It's all about being mindful. See, mindful, tuning in is a process I do. Okay. It's a 15-minute process. I don't sit in a lotus position. You don't need to with my stuff. You can be walking around. You can go outside. You got to use headphones because there's binaural beat frequencies and other things, heartbeat and breathing patterns. But I do, and there's very high frequency music that I write. But don't drive when you do it if you buy it, if you ever listen to it, whatever. But I'm always throughout my day, and I'm sure you do this too. So I start my day with the 15 that anchors me, and then I end my day after I do my highlights and insights with my 15-minute good night sweet dreams. Okay, that's another one of my things. So it's all about my sleep and clearing, because when I go to sleep, man, I want to be able to dream and have this canvas and have all this beautiful stuff going on. But during the day, man, I stop midday at 2:30 every day. I stop for 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I listen to my 15-minute rest and relaxation and rejuvenation sculptation. Because it's proven scientifically that if you stop midday, whatever you're doing, whatever it is in life, just stop. You can even stop for 3 to 5 minutes. Your mind and your brain will reconnect. It'll disconnect and reconnect, because you need to get away from what you're doing. Because what happens is your productivity lessens as you go throughout your day, because you just have so much mental capacity. So you got to stop and reconfigure it. You got to reset, rewire, and recode is what I call it. And so I'm always, all throughout my day, man, I'm always checking in. I'm checking in. I'm tuning in. And that's my mindful exercise for me.
That's interesting, because usually around 2:30, 3 o'clock, people are reaching for that next cup of coffee, right? To respark.
Yeah, or the candy
I'm
bar.
Guilty of that. Yeah, or a candy
we
bar.
all are.
Spike. Yeah. So you do that. That help. I mean, that makes total sense, just to kind of reset and just reset basically. That's great.
Well, yeah, I mean, because listen, we're busy. We're busy. I mean, we do what we do. We're busy. Let's just call it what it is. And so we're so busy that what happens is, and then we have our see, I say life's an addiction. It is. You don't have to have a drug and alcohol addiction. You could have a phone addiction. You could have a iPad addiction. You could have I don't know, whatever.
Porn addiction.
So you can have a porn addiction. And so the thing about being able to recharge and as I say, reset and recode is that given to your own devices. First of all, man, we're human beings, right? Trying to live a spiritual experience. Okay? Human nature is all about distraction and diversion. And fear of flight, self-preservation, and what have you. And so, I practice, I try to do this every day, which is why I have so many in my inbox. I never look at email until the end of the day.
Okay.
Unless someone texts me and says, I sent you an email. And I tell people, you want to get in touch with me, send me a text, whatever. Okay. So I never look at my phone until I finish my morning routine. Okay. And of course, I finish my morning routine with, after I do write the good morning every day, I play with my animals for about 10 minutes or so. Okay. Because they teach me unconditional love. Because love is the universal language. And I try to have love. Everything emanates from love. And then I do my health part of my morning ritual, which is make my juice, make my smoothies. Right. Now I'm done, man. Then I go to the gym for 2 hours. I'm going to the gym right after this. Okay. But the thing about being able to give, it's all about giving yourself the opportunity to not be caught up in or drugged down or dragged down on however English, the proper English, by the insidious nonsense your mind is going to tell you. Everybody has an inner critic, bro.
Yeah.
And you know what? We love listening to our inner critic, consciously and unconsciously. We love our inner critic, man, because our inner critic gets us out of doing things that challenge us. Our inner critic gets out of us doing things so we can work through fear. Our inner critic gets in our way so that we won't take that next step, because sometimes that next step is when success happens, because there's a fear of uncertainty. So our inner critic is always going, blah, blah. Paul, you're not enough. Paul, you don't know enough. Paul, you da da da. Who do you think you are? Blah, 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 blah. Listen, man, whenever I still have an inner critic when I write songs. Now, I've been a pretty successful songwriter. You know, I mean, I haven't had number one hits because I've never been in that world, but I've had a lot of songs people have heard. Trust me. You know, I mean, I've Got a Million in Our Mind has been heard. I mean, anytime you ask anybody, have you ever been to Peak Potentials? And there's probably a million people who've been through that course. They go, yeah. And I tell them, well, I wrote I've Got a Million in Our Mind. They'll sing it to me. Or have you driven a Ford lately? Or whatever.
Right.
But the thing is, every time I go sit down and write a song, Justin, you know what the first thought is? Well, no one's going to like this.
Interesting. And then you shift.
I've been doing it, bro. I've been doing it for 30 fucking years. Excuse me. Okay. And then I go, and then I recall. Remember the celebration?
Yeah.
I recall, because we all have, you know, I call it, you know, recall your memory. And I recall, I go, wait a minute, man. What are you talking about? You know how many people have sang this? And many people say, come get out of your own way and just write the freaking song.
Love it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. All this, everything, Paul, everything you've talked about, everything we've went over is really good insight. I implore people to go back and take notes if you haven't. And this was really good stuff. I really appreciate it. I have a question that I want to end this with.
Yep.
And it's something that I ask everybody, and I'm actually really interested to hear. Well, I think I know what you might say, but I'm interested. If you could go back and meet your 18-year-old self, what advice or what statements would you tell that person?
Based on where I am now, in other words?
If you right now, just if you could go back and say, you know, looking at your life, say, and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you say?
It's a really good question, man. It's a powerful question. It's probably something that people should ask themselves all the time. Well, the first question I would ask myself would be, what stopped you from believing in you?
So what advice would you give yourself? So you would say, you know, think about
so my advice would be, you know what? You can do anything you want in your life. Yeah. You just have to commit to wanting to do it. You have to own it and claim it. You have to understand that everything in your life you create. There's nothing that happens in your life that isn't an effect and a circumstance that has been driven by some thought or belief. And so the biggest thing that I need to learn as a young man on a journey in life is to understand that I have everything I need. We all have everything we need to create the ideal life, is what I call it, that we want to live in. And no matter what comes up, no matter what happens, no matter what, you know, you might perceive as a problem or a challenge, whatever, no matter what happens in life, it's just an invitation for me to become more and more of who I am. And so the ability to truly understand that everything that happens in my life is a direct effect of any thought belief that I have, then if I truly want to live, as I say, the ideal life, then I have to take back control and direct my journey the way I want it to be directed. And then whatever shows up, all the defining moments, all the opportunities, all the possibilities, all the negativity, all the positivity, all that stuff is part of your journey. Because I will tell you that at 9:15 in the morning, on November 25th, 2019, where I'm talking to my good brother, Justin, everything I've done in my life has gotten to me to this point. And the only thing I have right now is now. That's it. And so do I regret? No, I don't regret anything. Mm-hmm. Would I do things differently? Oh, absolutely. But I don't regret anything. Because if I'm going to regret, then I'm living that way.
Right.
And I can't live in the future because the future ain't here yet.
Mm-hmm.
See, what you do today determines what you're going to do tomorrow. Period. And so I would, from all the wealth of knowledge, everything I've learned, all the people I've met, I would just say, you know, Paul, you're about to embark on this amazing journey called life. Understand that it's your life. And you get to create it any way you want to. You get to sculpt the masterpiece known as you, and don't hold yourself back.
I love it. That's all that. Yeah, that's perfect. That was great. That's good advice.
That's a long answer to a question.
It's a long answer, but we know exactly where I know exactly where you're going with it, and I think that you summed it up beautifully with that. So it's that question. It's a very simple question, but it makes you think. It makes you really think. And I've had a lot of different answers from people on it. The other day, I heard somebody do a letter to his daughter. Right. So she's only like 2 or something. And so he just said, like, when you're old enough, if I'm, and you hear this, here's what I want to say. And I thought that was beautiful too. Great idea to do also.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever written a letter to yourself?
So I did write a letter to myself. I think I'm supposed to open up in February. I forget. It's so funny, dude. I wrote it, I don't know, 8 months ago. I haven't even thought about it until you just said that. We'll see.
I've done that. I've done that exercise a few times.
Yeah, and I'm curious, has some of it manifested? Has it been powerful?
I've never opened them.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe you should open them.
For me, the exercise is really to get the stuff out. Okay. I mean, I've written letters to my mother, for instance, even. You write your letters to a loved one or whatever. But it's really more about it's a highly personalized exercise.
Yeah.
Where if you see the thing about most people, bro, and you know this, most people are afraid to face whatever they need to face. Okay, and the truth of the matter is, if you don't face it, you're never going to work through it. And I've been on this planet, longer than you have, and I've been through a lot of different stuff. But that's just the stuff I've been through. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so to be able to really get to where I want to get to in life, and the good news is, see, when people say, "Man, I'm going to start something when it's the perfect timing," and I always say, "Well, you know what, man? If things are perfect, you'd have nothing to work on. So don't perfect's not a place." Okay,
that just happened to me recently, so I love that.
Right, and some days not a day of the week either. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the whole idea is if you can really, and this is not easy, man. It takes a lot of mindfulness and a lot of willingness to really look at your life and your behaviors and your habits and how you set yourself, all the stuff we've talked about. If you're really mindful and willing to look at it from the most honest perspective as possible. Again, it's you. It's not, you're the one that has to do this first, because it all emanates from you. If you're willing to do that, I will guarantee you that you'll be able to get out of your own way, because you'll be able to feel. So you need to feel all the emotions that have negatively affected you and all the emotions that have positively affected you. Because which ones do you want? You probably want the ones that are positive. Okay.
More often.
And so it's important for people to really continue to do a self-interventions. I call them self-interventions, where you get to sit down. That's why critical thinking is important, and deep work. Really sit down and go, okay, am I really on the path that I'm supposed to be on? You know, where am I going off the path? And it's okay to go off the path, by the way, because feedback is just information. Now, sometimes, you know, people get in conversations with people and you might say, you know, Paul, I don't like that shirt. And Paul might go, what do you mean you don't like my shirt? Whatever.
It goes right to anger.
it's just feedback, right?
Right.
And so, you know, criticism's awesome if you understand that it's, again, just information.
Yeah, you know what's funny? We gotta cut this. That's why I ended the question.
Okay.
I tried.
Sorry, bro.
Sorry. I have to go.
On tangent.
But yeah, I actually just did an episode on giving and receiving feedback and criticism with my wife. It's out. It went out yesterday. So that's interesting. You just ended there. But yeah, dude, I really appreciate all this. Like, honestly, thank you.